Today we have a story of a crazy entitled parent yelling at somebody for simply walking past them. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, your young child isn't your BFF. Not sure if it's appropriate for this sub, but I feel that this needs to be said. Too many parents gossip and speak negatively about others, strangers, relatives, and the other parent, to their 3 to 12-year-olds, and I find it bizarre, especially when the conflict doesn't even involve the child. It seems unfair to turn a little kid against others when they're going to be biased anyway. I've even seen adults in public bullying strangers and involving their children. Your job as a parent is to model appropriate behavior and teach them right from wrong. If you have a problem with a peer, you address it with that peer. Kids shouldn't grow up worrying about adult issues. It's hard enough going to school and dealing with classmate bullies, etc. No child should have to be defending mommy from people she doesn't like in their free time. Also, using your kid as a bodyguard is all kinds of sick. I've seen mothers on public buses cussing out and threatening childless individuals, knowing they likely won't retaliate because of their child. To me, that's child abuse. Full stop. I worry for my future children since so many of their peers are going to be raised by people who never matured past age 14. I think OP is spitting. Honestly, it's pretty sad that this even needs to be said. Unfortunately, it seems like it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be so many people out there who are incredibly unfit to be a parent, who seem to have a priority to do nothing but pop them out. That said, our next story is this normal mom behavior? My parents work a lot, so me and my sister do 95% of the chores daily. We're moving out soon, so I'm wondering how that's going to go with the chores and tidiness of the house. We spent all day cleaning and reorganizing because my mom's friend was coming over. She never ended up coming over, although the first thing my mom says, ignoring the effort we just put it, says, "Did you mop the floor?" And me, trying to keep it lighthearted, I say, "No, I didn't, but did you look in the cupboard?" Because I reorganized the whole cupboard, which was a mess. But she just looks at me and goes, "Don't be an expletive and mop the floor. My friend is coming over." The next day, she woke us up at 7:45 a.m. calling us lazy because we didn't happily jump out of bed to start immediately cleaning the kitchen and lounge, saying we aren't going to last a month in the house we're moving into. It just annoys me because we do all of the cleaning and it all gets done eventually, but she leaves her dishes, clothes, and rubbish around the house. Or this morning when she comes into the room, me and my sister asleep, saying, "Did you feed the dogs?" In my head, I was like, obviously not, I just got woken up. So then I got up and fed them. Then it's, "Hang the washing out." You finish that and immediately after it's, "Do the dishes." She also called my sister a Richard because she complained mom put the wet washing on the floor instead of hanging it out. We are cleaning the kitchen and she's like, "If you keep up this attitude, I won't let you move into that house." Because I said we do everything around here, she said, "It's not a relaxed day." I just feel like it's normal at this point for her to be like this. Obviously, it's not too bad, but the comments wear me down and it's hard for me to try to stay positive. I guess it could be worse, but I just want to know if this is normal. I would certainly hope that it's obvious that parents shouldn't be treating their kids this way, and even kind of the division of labor isn't right. Like, I kind of get having maybe one day on the weekend where like you might want to have like mostly cleaning going on, but I don't think it's fair to expect your kids to do all the cleaning regardless, even if you work full time. I think it's a completely unreasonable thing for parents to go, "Oh, well, all they do is just go and sit in school for 8 hours. It's not like they're working too hard." Like, I'm kind of assuming these parents would argue. I mean, even the way OP says she leaves her dishes around the house. Does that imply neither parent even makes food for the kids? Is this like a everybody fends for themselves kind of thing? Candykins commented, "She told you exactly what she's going to do. She's going to do everything in her power to prevent you from moving out. The smartest thing you could do is keep your head down and mouth shut while you get things in order to move out. Don't remind her that you do everything or she may try to hold on to her maids even harder." Edit to add, "No, it is not normal. I do see it a lot, but somehow these people don't realize they're creating a negative connection with cleaning and building crappy relationships with their kids. Then they're shocked the kids want nothing to do with them later in life." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my dad came in unannounced to my job at college, had a panic attack. I am currently in my best friend's room trying to calm down. I'll probably post more about this later in the future, but for now, I thought I should just post here just because I guess. For context, my father aided my stepmother to emotionally and verbally abuse me, and he was often a factor too, specifically about schoolwork, but of course of other things. It's to the point where I have a panic attack and or go numb simply checking my grades because I have this deep-seated fear that I know I already failed, and it will never be perfect. This also escalates to stalking me in school, and threatening to another time, throwing my phone across the room, I have a different one that he sadly still pays for, and never giving me any privacy. My stepmom has done worse, but it's not about her right now. The worst thing they've done altogether is that she threatened to send my inappropriate photos to my teachers, friends, and my mom if I don't start behaving, aka obeying her rules, and broke my school computer in the process, screaming at me that she has a whole PDF file saved of all my inappropriate photos, how she wants me to fear her, that she is the law of the land, and that I'm an ungrateful tramp. I was under 18 at this time, and there was a photo that was sent to my dad's phone from mine at a time when I was grounded from it. Sadly, that phone broke or else I'd have proof. And what did he do? Almost break up with her because you don't lie to children. During the summer I was 18, I finally forced their hand and moved out, which they threatened to call the cops. And before I did move out, they expected me to put house chores over my literal job, and was my job to take care of all of their animals, the house, etc., and would still threaten to ground me for not listening to them. And even at one point, my stepmom stole my car while I was at work, and my dad said, "Well, she shouldn't have done that. She should have asked to use it." Anyways, I'm currently at a college 2 hours away from where I live. Me and my parents still live in the same town, different houses. I was working at my library job when I suddenly looked up and he was sitting there. He invited me to dinner. I lied and said I still had an hour left, but he told me he would wait. So I was stuck behind the desk for an extra hour. I told my boss and he understood completely. The dinner was okay, we just went to Taco Bell. However, he had insisted we take his Jeep instead of my car because it was closer, which kind of ticked me off because I was carrying a crap ton of stuff already because I had no idea that he would be there. We didn't fight, which was good, but the whole time I had to keep correcting him on the streets and where to drive. And in the college parking lot, he made a 3-point turn while the car was still trying to pull out to drive, and after I told him to just quickly cut through the parking lot. There's a small lane you can just use to turn around. Then he insisted we hang out for Thanksgiving, so I just told him the day before or after, so he would drop it. As soon as I got back, I knocked on my friend's door and he was consoling me for at least a good hour or two, as I just sobbed into his shoulder about the crap my dad has put me through. Not all of it, but what was going on my mind then, such as the stuff in the paragraph above, just everything that was going through my mind, and it was like I was there back at that god-awful house again. I want to throw up right now. Something else recent he did was, growing up, he and my stepmom would always try to make me prepare to go to college because they wanted me to, and were always telling me, "You'll thank us one day. We want you on a good path in life, not a trailer junkie, etc." They're convinced that all trans people will become broke tramps, except me. I figured I wasn't getting out of the house anytime soon. So I relented and we registered, with him having access to the financial bit because he promised he would pay for all of it. However, as soon as he paid for this year, or semester, I honestly don't remember, he told me he won't pay anymore and that I have to fully rely on scholarships. Then, just a few days ago, he told my bio mom that the state was going to pay for it all. How exactly? He didn't clarify, and he also never told me that, so me and my mom figure it's a bullcrap lie. As a side note, it's also a MAGA Trump supporter, and even though we never said anything, I know dang well he voted for Trump probably. I'm now just going to disassociate and play video games. Good night, thank you for reading. Small edit, he also happened to get me a plush. This makes me even more upset because I love plushies, but now that one will forever be tied to this. Freak, man. I was honestly pretty afraid when I heard OP said that they allowed them to pay for that because I was afraid that is going to give them and the stepmom another route to just have so much control and input over OP's life. I thought the rest of the story was going to immediately turn into them saying, oh, we'll cancel the payments if you don't do X or do Y. Also, I just gotta say, if there's any chance that they still have those photos, I feel like it's not a crazy idea for OP to report that, especially if they're still threatening OP with it. McFlame13 commented, your parents completely abused you while you were growing up while also blackmailing you. Time to cut off those completely worthless pieces of trash. Actually, calling them trash would be too good for them, but I can't think of anything worse. Once you cut them off, if either of them try to interact with you, record them being the abusive pieces of crap they are. Then if they still try to do crap, get a restraining order against them. Our next story is, I left home. I don't want to go back, even if I end up homeless. I have no idea how I should even start. All I know is that my mother hates me and she told me to leave, so I did. I don't want to go back. This is a huge issue, even if she doesn't say it. I know that she hates me. So today, I'll start with that. She woke up at 7 a.m., but I woke up at 10:30ish. It's 12 now. Anyway, she wanted me to get up and go to the store to get food for the cats. But I didn't get up fast enough, so she kicked me out when I was up and ready. I went out and told her that I was ready. She just told me to leave. It went something like this. I tell her, I'm ready, what should I bring? She says, death, just leave and don't come back. So just like that, I left. Look, before you attack me, just know that we've never really got along. We've always been fighting one another for stupid things. She loves my older sister more than me, I just know it. She never said it outright, but I can feel it. I don't understand why she's like this. I do help around the house, but she is so mean. She always criticizes everything I do. No, OP, don't do it that way, do it this way. At this point, I'm guessing she was just trying to find a reason to tell me to get out. So here it is. I was born by accident, so I guess that's why. But if you don't want a child, don't birth one. Every freaking time I made a mistake, she didn't help me solve it. No, she just yells at me. The thing is, when I deceive a good fight, I know and I will take it. Or later realize what I did wrong and apologize. But this time, nope. I know I did something wrong by not getting up fast enough, but I won't go back. This goes deeper than me not going to the store when she wanted me to. She hates the way I dress, the way I brush my hair, everything. She criticized my weight, you name it, everything. And when I try to bring up the fact that I don't like the way she's talking to me or about me, her response? Go, leave, cry in your room. Well, I'm done crying because her words are pointless at this point. She's like a ticking bomb. She will snap at me for everything. Right now, I'm sitting at the wet bench typing this. I know my post doesn't check all the boxes of rSlash_EntitledParents, but I wanted to vent about what I have to go through for nothing. If I go back and apologize to her, I just know she will find something to kick me out for. I don't want to go back. Ever. I'm just going to spend a night outside, then get a job and move the freak out. When I was younger, I wanted to end it because of the way she talked to me and about me. These 2 weeks, I was slowly getting back on my feet, but today, she ruined everything. I don't know where to go now, but I am not going back home. I'd rather die than live with her at this point. I don't care what happens now. Well, unfortunately in OP's case, there may not be much more of a better motivator for OP to manage to pull themselves up and succeed. I mean, when you've got the chance to prove somebody like that mom wrong and just thrive on your own, not only is there a lot of incentive there, there's also just the incentive to make sure you can get away from that. Minute Elegant 774 commented, "How old are you? Because the advice will change if you're a minor or an adult. Are you homeless now? Or can you crash on a friend's couch?" They updated commenting, "Since you're 24, you need to be rational and thoughtful about your next steps. If you don't have anywhere to go home please. The streets aren't safe. You can then think about what kind of work you're suited to do. Once you find a job, you then need to save for rent, first month and deposit. Based on your reaction, you seem to care about your mom's attention, hence the 'I'm not going home tonight' to punish her, in my opinion, which shows you both care about each other in some ways still. Make peace and just follow through on your plan to find a job and a place to live. You could also consider taking some classes if you haven't gone to college, so you can get better jobs that offer far more money. Escape your childhood trauma by having a better life in your family." This next story is Teen Mom Consequences. I, 58-year-old female, had my first child, 41-year-old male, at 17. I married his father but divorced 2 years later. Shocking, I know. I jumped right back into another abusive relationship that I stayed in for 4 years. I had another child, 35-year-old male. When youngest was 8 months old, after a beating that broke my nose, I had nothing left. I decided to change my life even if it meant being alone forever. There was about a 2-year period in there where I was a bad mom. I partied a lot, did drugs, never around my kiddo, was super selfish, and I never once took my children's feelings into consideration. I didn't even realize that my actions affected them. I protected them, sort of. I tucked them into bed when I was home at night, sang them songs, read them books, cooked them dinner, took them to the park, etc. They were always clean and had a roof over their heads. The bare necessities, really. It took me a while to get my crap together, and even when I did, I don't think I was a stellar parent. I love my kids, but I had no idea how to nurture them, how to help them reach their potential. My oldest son is successful and has a lovely family. He's a really great dad and husband, and I have something of a relationship with him, but I know he resents me. He won't say it, but someone's told me it's true. He still feels responsible for taking care of me, so he won't talk to me about it. He rarely answers my calls or texts, and I rarely see him, even though we live in the same town. I do spend a lot of time with his kids. I've asked to go to therapy together, and he says he's fine. I've told him I am so sorry that I wasn't the parent he deserved. I've told him how proud I am because there is no way that someone as great as he is should have come from a selfish teenage mom. My younger son detests me. I sort of had my head on straight when he was born, but I didn't protect him enough either. I've also offered therapy and apologized, even listing the things I did wrong. He's told me he wouldn't care if I died. He has drug and alcohol issues, doesn't have a job, and doesn't see his children. I spend as much time with them as I can. Both of my boys were SA'd, the oldest by a babysitter's relative while I was at work. I don't know when the youngest was because he won't talk about it. I know I wasn't a great mom and my choices messed them up. My heart breaks every day because of this, but I know this is my fault. I don't want to go leaving them burdened with unresolved resentments that they have towards me. I would do anything to go back in time, but since I can't, I want to figure out how to help them heal. If it means cutting me out of their lives, I'll deal with that. It is my consequence for damaging them. Do any of you know how I can help them? They paid my consequences when they were children, and I don't want them to have to pay them forever. I think, unfortunately, this is something that's just very much up to your, adult children. I mean, if there's ever a time where they might be willing to open their arms to OP again, that's great, and if they're open to a therapy thing, that's great. But like OP recognizes, with the way they grew up and how they weren't protected, they might just never be open-minded to that, and it's painful, but it's just maybe how it is. Hellcats Paz commented, "You help them by respecting their wishes for distance and thanking your stars that they allow you to be around their kids. Not every relationship can be mended, but if you keep pushing for reconciliation, despite knowing they're not interested or ready, you're just going to push them both further away. They know where to find you. They know you want to repair things. They need to be ready to do that and take the next step themselves." Our next story is, seriously, what the heck does a person have to do to be found in contempt of court these days? My brother and his ex are going to court for the 3rd time because his ex keeps refusing to comply with court orders and refuses to do handovers with my brother for his court-ordered custody time with his daughter. She's getting more extreme. She's changed her daughter's nursery schedule after she settled and used to the other kids, and is now threatening to pull their daughter out of nursery altogether so he can't pick her up. Basically, she's willing to mess her child around just to get one over on my brother. The most recent problem started with, wait for it, him and his daughter unintentionally being in the supermarket at the same time as her. How dare he go and buy food for his daughter, right? At their handover, her grandmother started screaming at him for this, and despite him having a recording on his phone of this incident, the ex is accusing him of starting it. At every turn, my brother is trying to be the bigger person, but ex is refusing to communicate with him regarding important information about my niece. One time, she didn't tell him that she had an upset stomach at handover. He took her home and gave her a snack as usual, and she threw it up. At another time, she became unwell during my brother's time with her, and she refused to tell him which GP she was registered with. Social services had to intervene. He's been trying to talk to her about potty training for a while, not something he can start himself if the other parent isn't going to do it too, since she started showing signs she was ready. She only now decided it was time when she started pulling poo out of her nappy and making a mess with it, so now they're going to court over this for a third time, at the taxpayer's expense because they're both getting legal aid, and they're probably still not going to reprimand her for it. What she's doing is a finable offense. It can result in prison time in some circumstances. They're more likely to give her a frickin' medal instead. Alternatively, if it had been my brother acting like this, they would have come down on him hard. They had no trouble stopping him from seeing her when his ex falsely accused him of SA, and she faced no consequences when it came out that this was false. I'm sorry this hasn't had a satisfying ending like a lot of stories in the subreddit. Sadly, sometimes the entitled poor excuses for parents consistently get exactly what they want. Unfortunately, you have bad judges out there in the world. You have bad senses of character or just people with huge implicit biases. I think especially if she's good at kind of blubbering up her emotions a little bit. Somebody like that judge that's overseeing the situation, seeing that crying mom, being so upset and saying, "All I want is a good relationship with my kid and for it all to work out." It's unfortunately just game, set, and match there. HJoe1210 commented, "My sister is going through this. Her and her husband were out of country on vacation when he beat her up, took her passport and flew home. It took weeks for her to get back home, and when she got there, he had changed the locks, moved his mistress in, and gotten a protective order against my sister claiming she had abused him. Long story shorter, she's been fighting for custody of her kids for almost 2 years, and her ex is refusing to comply with her custody time. He's been found in contempt 3 times with no consequences to him. He has no incentive to follow court orders because they won't actually do anything. Being found in contempt does nothing if it's not enforced with consequences. My sister finally got to see her daughter for the first time in a year because her ex didn't want to pay for daughter's homecoming dress, and my sister refused to just give him the money for it. She still hasn't seen her son." OP responded saying, "It's sickening how they're allowed to get away with any of this, but then the courts will come down hard on someone who doesn't deserve it. It doesn't make sense." Our next story is, "My parents have occasionally helped me financially over the years. Now at 26 and mostly independent, they'll only help out if they can see my bank statements. Am I wrong for disagreeing? Editing because the title is horribly worded and I want to clarify, and I'm sorry for that, I tried my best. My actual question is, if you wanted to help your adult child learn how to manage finances, would a good approach be by checking their bank statements? That is the only thing I'm wanting to hear other opinions on. I have never felt entitled to their money. When borrowed, it is repaid per the original agreement. I am not trying to make them give me money on my terms. I have and will continue to share bank statements when applying for any kind of loan or credit card, etc. Wanting to hide my spending isn't the issue. I support myself. I don't live with them. I am not perfect and occasionally need some assistance. Prior to turning 26, they've said they want me to come to them first. I'm not addicted to gambling, drugs, etc., and actually live quite modestly. Full bank statements? I don't really think so. If OP wants to share that, sure, but I even just think, taking a step back, the situation where they say, "We want to see your bank statements," and OP as a 26-year-old living independently supporting themselves going, "I don't want to," that should be the end of it. Souls Hard commented, "Signal boost. 211 is a free call in the USA, until otherwise shut down, to be connected to local services and systems to help you get back on your feet. This can include rental assistance, food pantries, assistance in finding local legal help. Some also connect to local places to get mental health assistance. I highly encourage you to reach out to see if you can get a little help. There may also be financial literacy and budgeting help if you look for it. I wish you luck." Cameron Park 89 commented, "I would be careful with this one because 211 doesn't always give you options. They also aren't great at following up. I've called a few times when I was younger before, and the last time they told me no one in my area was offering help, and the only thing they could really offer me was a gas card to be able to take my son to and from school." Our next story is, "Entitled parent harassed me for walking by her kids." I don't know if this was one of those racism things or the lady was just a weirdo, but let's get into it. I, 16 Latino male, was on my way through Kohl's with this fresh butt speaker I was gonna buy. I was just walking through. Mind you, I felt nothing brush against me, and enter the mom who looked to be in her 40s with these two kids that were like 7 or 8 maybe. She says, "Excuse me." I take off my headphones and say, "Huh?" She says, "Jesus, you could have walked around." I say, "What do you mean?" She replies, "You could have ran over my kids." I tell her, "I'm sorry, I don't know what the problem is, but you need to calm down. Your kids are okay, they were off to the side of me, I didn't even touch them." She says, "You touched my kids." I walked away. As I always say, God made me a patient man, and I'm surprised I didn't get annoyed or fed up with her because she was being incredibly belligerent. I did walk out with my speaker in hand still and have been enjoying it since September before junior year started, but yeah, that's my story. Nothing crazy. I think I've told this story before, but this story reminds me of when I was like 8 or 9 years old and I was at a water park. I was in the lazy river just swimming underneath the water and I just swam by, and I guess maybe I brushed by somebody. I didn't personally feel anything, but I surfaced and some lady just immediately dunks my head back under the water and like calls me a pervert or something. I was just swimming around. And again, I was like 8 years old. I wasn't looking at women. I was trying to see how long I could keep my eyes open for before all the chlorine stung my eyes. Belderin commented, "Sweetheart, next time don't engage at all if possible." You are not wrong, but she could have escalated simply because she didn't like your tone, and it could have gone south pretty quickly. Best response is often no response, and I'm so sorry that this is the world we live in, but all too often, a bench like that can make real trouble for a kid like you. I say this as a middle-aged white lady, but I am ashamed at how some of these Karens act. You sound lovely, and I hope your speakers are great. Our next story is, how do you handle a parent who constantly lets you down even when you've made your needs clear? I had my baby about 5 weeks ago and, like many new moms, asked my own mom to come help out for the first week. I even paid for her flight, and when she asked if my sister could come too, I covered her ticket as well. They arrived and I thought I'd have some support, but after a mere 6 hours of helping, they left to go sightseeing. They went to the beach, did all the touristy stuff, and pretty much ignored me and the baby. They didn't even offer to make us food. A few times they made breakfast for themselves, but not for me or my husband. One day I didn't get to eat until 1 p.m. because the baby was keeping me busy and they just left. I took out board games, hoping for some bonding time, but they were always too busy. When they finally left, I was actually relieved because it was like having house guests, not support. Weeks went by and my mom never texted or called to ask how I was doing. She did ask about the baby, but mostly because she wanted pictures. When I sent one, she immediately posted it on social media, even though I'd been crystal clear I didn't want my baby's pictures online. When she asked for more, I ignored her. Now she's upset with me, not talking, and offering no support or advice. I was planning to visit my family for Christmas, but I canceled the trip. I feel no support from them, and honestly, I'm wondering if there's even a relationship left to save. I had hoped my mom would step up, but this experience has just reminded me of all the times growing up when she wasn't there. Maybe the real mistake was expecting her to be different this time. I think this is just kind of that eye-opening experience OP needed to finally know where things lie. You just can't count on them, and I imagine it hurts. But really, what can you do? They'd have to want to be better. Bookworm Trisha commented, "She let you down in the past, and this trip showed again that she does not care about you. Realize that she will not change. I recommend that you stop sending her pictures, stop funding her trips, just stop interacting. Enjoy your own family and your in-laws if they're nice. Join compatible groups and make new friends where you are." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.